The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we're going to discuss a number of issues in the news. Thank you to all our listeners for being with us, and let's get to it.
What you want to talk about, Brooke? You got something on your mind?
Yeah, I do. I was listening to Tom Homan. Yeah, well, the deportation of American citizens, the children, the claims that the women wanted to take their children with them. And Tom Homan referred to the mothers of the children as females, the females. The females want to come and have children here. The females wanted to take their children with them, or however he put it, but he used the word females. He didn't use the word mothers. He didn't use the word women, the females. And I found that very disturbing in terms of marginalization, almost as though he were talking about non-humans, female of another species. And I think that was quite deliberate on his part. None of the women were given opportunities to have their children's cases heard. None of the families of these children, including the father of the 2-year-old, who was an American citizen also himself. He was born here. He wanted to keep his daughter here. And the judge was looking at the paperwork, and the judge apparently asked for time to look at the paperwork. And in the meantime, the two were already, the mother and the 2-year-old daughter, and I believe a 7-year-old as well, were already on the plane and already, too late, already in Honduras. And the father, who has just as much right and entitlement to his daughter as the mother does, didn't even have an opportunity to speak with the child's mother or put up the habeas claim or have attorneys or do anything. And apparently there's a handwritten note from the mother saying, I want to take my child with me, which is not that. I don't think that's good enough in a court of law. Mark would know more about that than I, particularly if no lawyer was present. That could be signed under duress. I'm not even sure if it was signed. And that then the child with stage 4 cancer. Each of these children has, and there's at least one more child. All are American citizens, none of whom were given proper due process or any due process. Each child has family, American-born family, who were interested in keeping the child here. No one had any opportunity to do anything. And again, the same fast and loose with the requirements of the law. Too late, as with Kilmer Abrego Garcia, already in Honduras, already here, already there. Too late, too bad, so sad, and all that sort of flippant type of attitude. It violates the Constitution, and it happens over and over. And I understand that ICE also went running into, and I'm not sure where this happened, they went running into the wrong house and dragged a woman.
Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Oklahoma City, thank you. And dragged out a woman and her 3 children in their underwear in the middle of the night. And they didn't even have the correct address. And in Florida also, some person who said he was ICE but produced no identification when called upon by onlookers to do so, and was threatening the onlookers who tried to protect a person from being taken away. They didn't know who he was. He produced no ID. He produced no evidence of his authority. And one of these times, considering that many members of the American population are armed, one of these agents, I mean, they're putting their own, own ICE agents at risk. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are, if the intent is to have an agent shot and potentially killed, and then Trump can say, "Oh, Insurrection Act and aiding and abetting criminals and all this sort of stuff," and start to arrest bystanders. I wanted to say standers by, or people who try to protect the individual who is being taken away, but they don't even know if the person doing the removal or attempting a removal is a legitimate person or not. And we're going to have an escalation. So what are your thoughts? It's very disturbing, and the use of the word females, to me, I find that very off-putting, denigrating, and androcentric. So I'd like to know your thoughts.
Who first, Scott?
I mean, go ahead, please.
Pick me. All right. So this idea, so there, gosh, Brooke, you give us an awful lot to unpack, because you give us like 5 or 6 different cases here, and thankfully you didn't bring up the judge being arrested, the 2 judges being arrested. Nope, don't be waving. You missed it. Yep. So maybe we'll get that to the next one. All right. So the idea. All right. So let's do a little thing here with your first point: mother or woman,
or female.
Or female. That's a politics thing. Whenever you say mother, that invokes certain thoughts. Where if you say female or if you say woman, it invokes different thoughts. So that's probably why it was framed that way. Probably not to denigrate, but they don't want to say the word mother because that makes you think of mom apple pie, with the apron on and stuff. They don't want to paint that picture of this person, to the public as they're bringing it. That would be my thought. If I was writing it, that's the way I probably would write it the same way, because you want to avoid certain words that may invoke certain feelings in certain people, and that's political communication. So to me, that's not a big deal. The idea of the father wanted the child. So my question would be to that, and again, we don't know who had custody. I'm making the assumption the mother had custody. Is the custody legal custody? Is there a reason why the mother might not want the father to have custody? We don't know any of these things. I mean, again, if she's got custody and he's the American citizen, I'm beginning to wonder a little bit, that a family court would give a non-citizen custody or an illegal alien custody and an American not. I mean, granted, in most cases in family court, if you're a woman, you've got a pretty good chance of winning, because every court still, even to this day, like to turn the child over to the mother as opposed to the father. So that would be my question in there. So if she has custody, she's probably the only one that can say, yes, I want the child to come with me. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it is to keep the hands of the father off the child. I don't know. I can't say either or, but we can't make the assumption that it was, and Holman's right. This was her decision. And she obviously, I want to take the child with me. She's the one that made that decision, which is well within her rights.
Well, do we know that for sure?
Well, we don't. Just as much as we don't know who actually had custody, we don't know the circumstances beyond what we're hearing here. And so there's a lot to this case. In fact, my wife and I, when we were out shopping today, she said, who do you believe in the news anymore? You'd never get the full story. And I told her, because we were actually talking about local news here. And I said, I think you can believe local news pretty much, because they're going to get as much as they can. And they're just basically reporting. I think to this day, if there's, people say journalism is dead, local news is not. Local news is actually pretty doggone good. So we're probably not getting the full story, all of the everything that's involved into this. One network will sensationalize it and say, "Oh, it's the ICE people, doing this." And another network will say, "Oh my goodness, what's happened to that child?" And it's just a matter of what they're focused on. And the last to the point is ICE not identify themselves. The only thing I can say is the Gestapo at least identified themselves. So why wouldn't they want to do that? I don't know. What's the purpose of it? Couldn't tell you. I really couldn't. I mean, if you're a law enforcement officer, identify yourself. That should be pretty easy, especially in today's world. How many times do you see people getting pulled over on the road because somebody has, blue lights or red lights on their car? They're not an officer and they get robbed or shot or something like that. That's happened before. I've known people in communities I've been in where they got a cop behind them and they kept driving and they drove to the police station because it was dark. They weren't sure. They were not going to be out on some lonely road. They drove straight. And I'll tell you, it pissed the cop off. Oh, the cop's madder than hell. But the answer is, and it always holds in court, is, hey, I was afraid.
Yeah. I've told my daughters to do that.
Absolutely.
And to call 911, but don't stop under any circumstances.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot. Some of this, Brooke, I think is Tom Homan's using cop talk, and the way police tend to use words that they don't have to use, but they choose to use them. I'm supposing it's because of some kind of precision that they want to have there, which should be familiar to all of us as academics. You want to be as precise as possible. But the more disturbing thing here is this. We were kind of promised that they were going to go after the worst of the worst and the prisoner and the criminals and stuff like that. And that they were going to, where they were open about the fact that nobody was immune. And Tom Homan has said, just because you have a U.S. citizen child doesn't mean you're immune from our laws. And so you're, being deported to Honduras or wherever is within, they are acting within their rights. I'm sure that's going to end up going to court, and we'll have to see about that, right? Yesterday, I should point this out. Yesterday, a judge in California told the Border Patrol or ICE, how about this? You can't just walk up to somebody because they have brown skin without any kind of reasonable cause to talk to them, reasonable suspicion or probable cause, or without a warrant. You can't just go up to people and just because they have brown skin. And that's what really seems to be going on here, because the Oklahoma City case, they rushed into this house, pulled these people out. They didn't listen to reason at all. They didn't allow the young girls to get dressed before they pulled them out. And they really are just too heated. They're not good at their jobs. As I continue to say, they're the gang that couldn't shoot straight. They get the wrong people way too often. Everybody needs to, the courts need to stop this and say, look, due process is a thing. It's in the Fifth Amendment. It's an important part of being an American or being in America, because you don't have to be a citizen to get due process. You just have to be a person. And we need to stop these attacks on people until we can get a handle on what you're doing, because I don't think that Tom Homan's crew knows what they're doing. And I think the courts are coming around to this. So U.S. District Court Judge Jennifer Thurston said in a hearing on Monday that they had to stop detaining day laborers, farm workers, and others in a Home Depot parking lot, which I see at my local Home Depot, people standing around all the time, and that they need to have more reasonable suspicion before they can start going up to people and accosting them. And I think that that's a good thing to establish. Like, you can't just start snatching people off the streets. This is ridiculous. In the case of these children who were sent to Honduras, like one of them has stage 4 cancer and was sent without medication. The basic humanity of this country is at stake right now, and we cannot allow Tom Homan, of all people, to be in charge of our national empathy and our character, because he is not a representative for me in the United States of America. Last about this, I think I'll just say that the worst thing you can do to an American citizen is, roust them basically from sleep, or bust into their house while they're having breakfast or something along those lines, and humiliate them, accost them. In this case, basically robbed them. They took all their cell phones, and they took the woman's life savings in cash as evidence. And, with no, like, this is how you're going to get this stuff back. There's no sense of, like, that this is part of a plan here that we have. They basically just took everything away from this woman and left. Going along with them, supposedly, was the FBI and U.S. Marshals, along with ICE, and the Marshals denied participating in the raid, and the FBI said, look, we're just assisting. So this is like some serious Nazi crap mixed in with the usual Trump incompetence and ham-handedness. And it needs to stop. So the courts need to shut this down until they can get a handle on what's going on. I lied. I said that was the last thing. I'm going to say one more thing. And that has to do with this prison and this guy Bukele, the coolest dictator in the world. As it turns out, there's pretty good evidence that Bukele, rather than arrest all of these MS-13 and other gangs down in El Salvador, actually made a deal with them before he was elected president, which really sounds very familiar to me as far as Republicans getting elected president. He made a deal with them, and in many cases let their leaders out of the prison in El Salvador in order to be elected. And now he's going after their enemies, and basically this is a gang-led society that Trump is touting as a safe society that is all about law and order. Is anything but that. And this needs to become more common knowledge here in the States, as people have to understand what we're dealing with down there. And the reason that I started looking into this was because this guy Abrego Garcia should be safe in El Salvador if Bukele is all that, right? I think I said this last week on the phone, on this call, or whatever you call it. That if he was indeed sent to the United States or came to the United States illegally, but was granted asylum here by a judge who said, no, we can't send him back to El Salvador. It's not safe for him there. He's a target of gangs. Then it should have been safe for him to not be in prison and just be in El Salvador, right? He could have gone back to his mother and gone back to his home. That's a goal, by the way, for everybody who's got temporary protective service, status. When it's safe to go back to Haiti, the Haitians should go back. When it's safe to go back to Cuba, the Cubans should go back. Same with Venezuela. El Salvador was on that list, as is Nicaragua. And if it's safe to go back to El Salvador, they should go. But apparently it isn't. And this is all another one of these big lie type things where they're saying one thing, but they're actually doing quite the opposite. And again, we need our judges, we need our politicians, we need people to understand what's actually going on here, and to put a stop to Tom Homan and his raids, and to put a stop to putting flying people down to this prison who don't certainly the ones who don't belong there, but even the ones who do need to be brought back and given their day in court, because that's the system that we have here. It may be too slow for their liking. Hey, welcome to democracy. It's slow. And, that's it. I promised that this would be the last point, and it is. And I'll just leave it there. We can go on to something
Mark,
else, or you guys can have other opinions.
no, I just wanted to say something else regarding the young girl, the 2-year-old, and the mother who supposedly wrote this letter. She wanted to bring her child with her. I'm not so sure that she did, and the judge had put a stop on sending anybody anywhere while the judge looked over the case, because the father was petitioning. Other members of the family were petitioning to be the child's legal guardian. And they never had a chance to be heard because the regime went right ahead and bought the child a plane ticket and sent them both out. And that is not the 21 days that the judge ordered. I don't even remember which judge it is now. There are so many cases that the regime was told to provide to people. And this mom came in with her children for a regularly scheduled ICE appointment, a check-in, and was not expecting to be sent anywhere. So she happened to have her children with her. Who knows what she was told about taking her children or not taking her children. And that's the point, is that no one knows anything, and that they needed to be heard by attorneys, and everybody needed to stay here. If you want to detain them here, that's fine. Then detain them here. But the 2-year-old needed to remain here while the situation was determined where the child and with whom the child should be living. So the judge has set a May 16th hearing so that the family can be heard. I'm not sure how it works from the mother's perspective, because now the mother's in Honduras. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if anybody knows how that works, or how the child comes back if it's determined that the child's legal guardians are here and that the father should have legal custody. But the point is that due process was not had, and Holman can say, well, yeah, she had the child had that because the mother had her own day in court, or some sort of rigmarole. And I don't know if it was that particular time, because I don't choose to listen to him. Somehow Lake and Riley got brought into this, and I think it was this, it was on Face the Nation, and I'm not sure. As I said, I don't listen to Tom Homan, and it may have been in this conversation that it was, well, what about Lake and Riley? And I'm thinking that has nothing to do with what we're talking about now. And you are correct, Mark, in the usage of female rather than mother or mom or woman, because of the connotation that that Holman and the others want the listeners to draw. They don't want to think about loving, nurturing mother or dad or other family members. They want the listeners to think about female and someone who just comes here to have a baby, and then that's it. And to me, it's opprobrious, and it needs to stop. And the courts do need to stop it. But if the regime is not going to listen to the courts, I think I saw this morning from, I think it's CNN alert, that Trump has said that he can bring back a wrongly deported man, and I'm presuming it was just an alert, so I didn't read it. I'm assuming they're talking about Kilmer Abrego Garcia, but he won't do it.
So I actually saw a little bit of that clip, from ABC News yesterday. It was one of the most remarkable interviews I think I've ever seen in my life. I cannot recall ever seeing somebody. So first of all, Trump talked about the fact that he had the tattoos on his hands, which we all know were photoshopped in. And when the reporter, whose name is Moran, I think, told him that, he said, "Look, that was photoshopped." Trump got really offended because evidently nobody told him that they were photoshopped, I guess. And he said, "No, they weren't." And then he tried to say, "I don't have the power to do this because the lawyers are in charge of it and I leave it to the lawyers." And then when the reporter countered, "But you're the president, you can pick up the phone anytime you want and call down to El Salvador and get this guy back here on the next plane or send a plane for him." And he said, "Yes, I could do that. And I would if I thought he was the gentleman that you think he is. But I don't, and I'm not going to do it." So again, Trump is not interested in following the law. He never has been, obviously, his entire life. I don't know why he would start now. But somebody else needs to step in and say, this is a nation of laws, not a nation of suppositions or hunches or, one man's opinion is how we run the place. And I don't know what John Thune is thinking about any of this, and I don't even care what the most punchable face in the world cares about it, Mike Johnson. But somebody in the U.S. Senate needs to pick up on this and step up here for the United States of America and the laws to which it stands and all that kind of stuff. We don't this is not this country. And we're going to lose this country if we continue to allow this to happen. And it has to be stopped.
Mark, final thoughts? Nope.
No.
Right.
I think we beat that one to death, but I would leave with one final thing. When we talk about using language, we'll just make this very brief. When we use language, you use the word regime. That brings something up in people's minds as opposed to the traditional administration. So again, everybody will use language to invoke what they want people to see and think. Just a final thought on that.
Cool.
Alrighty. So I wanted to thank everyone for sharing some of your time with us on the Nova Society, and we will see you again next time. Stay safe.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social-political issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.